Hi there. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Michelle, and I have a question, please, for Lucy and for Jonathan. Nice to see both of you. I travel at times with a camera and a lot of film, and I use one of those X-ray bags. Many times when I go from one of our airports like Philly or Baltimore, I don't mind surrendering my cameras and stuff for inspection, but normally they run them through those X-ray machines, and then they stall there because they can't figure out what's this black spot on the X-ray. And I'm more than willing to have them come out and say, look, I want to hand search my film. That's fine. But a lot of times they won't do that. They just keep looking at the picture that comes out on the X-ray thing. Does this hurt my film any, or whatever?
That's a good question, and we were just discussing that before the show. Yeah. That's common to a lot of travelers. They have concerns about their film. One thing I can tell you that as long as it's not high-speed film, it's safe to go through the X-ray.
Now, okay.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. But many times the type of film I buy, it comes in black canisters, and I repackage them into clear canisters, put them into a sandwich bag, and then put them into my X-ray bag, so where they could just be pulled out and looked at, right away, rather than have zillions of these little canisters rolling all over.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm more than willing, and many times at these airports I tell them, look, if you want to hand inspect, please do. But they just keep, going through the machine and looking at it. I get a little worried about it.
Well, that's fine. You can always ask for a consent search, too. If you have items that you want checked, you can ask the agent to physically take it out, and we can physically check it for the passenger.
Do they do that a lot over in international airports, too? I'm sure they're more than happy to do that locally in the United States, but will they do that into a foreign airport?
Yes, they will do that anywhere as long as you ask them. They can't do the consent search unless, obviously, they have your consent. They can't physically, we can't physically go into your items unless the person has permission.
That's right. And since you said that, Michelle, by the way, thank you for calling. The FAA does not direct the security procedures of other nations, but it is advisable that American citizens utilize only those international airports that at a minimum do the following things, and this is what our home viewer was alluding to. One of the things is X-ray check luggage and parcels. They X-ray mail and freight, or they hold such items at least 24 hours before shipping on any passenger flight, so that would take care of any film that you might have in the check luggage. They X-ray and they physically inspect all carry-on luggage as well as parcels, or they hold such items at least 24 hours before shipping on any passenger flight, and that would take care of, if you have the film or whatever, your camera or any other such items.
Lucy, one thing I want to mention also, if you have like gifts that you're shipping to someone, that they may have to be unwrapped or actually put through an X-ray. If it's determined they can't be identified, the gift might have to be unwrapped. So. The person who's shipping something to their relative, they have to know that.
Absolutely. I remember traveling several years ago. Domestically, we didn't do that. But internationally, they'd say, don't wrap the gifts. If they're Christmas gifts or if they're birthday gifts, just take along the wrapping paper, wrap it at home when you get there before you give it to the person, because they do have to take everything apart. Internationally, they also restrict access to airside areas, such as ramps and hangars, to the properly identified people. And I remember traveling, and my relatives would have to leave me way before I got to the check-in area. And it's kind of hard, because you want to say goodbye till the very last minute, but this is what they've done to ensure safety. They don't permit curbside check of luggage or on international flights. We do on international flights, but now with the new security.
Yes, that's true.
And curbside, of course, I think I have always thought that curbside was not the best thing to do, because you want to be sure that your luggage gets on the same flight that you're on.
Yes.
And I'll be honest with you, I would always worry that my luggage would go somewhere else. I'd say, no, thank you. I'm going to check it in, right inside. So. That's probably a good a piece of advice. And also, airports that require airlines using terminal facilities to specifically match passengers with their luggage, and you mentioned that we're doing that now. Let's see, we talked about the different levels of security. Was there anything else that, oh, you have something here that
Yes, it's just
directive
a
from...
directive from the FAA. If we have any freight or any other items like you mentioned that we're shipping out, we have to have the signature of the shipper, and that's just telling us that they have no destructive devices or unauthorized explosives in them, and they have to adhere to that.
The announcements were made, I think it was last week, I don't remember the exact date, that with increased security, passengers are being asked, as I mentioned, to arrive earlier, wait in longer lines, and probably pay more when purchasing their tickets. However, the general consensus of the population is to agree with all of the above because we all realize that the more hassle, more time, and more money do lead to more security. I want to talk for a moment about the X-ray machines. I know that we don't have this kind of X-ray machine at the Reading Airport, but there is one that I wanted to mention. It's called the CTX 5000, which can detect explosives in luggage, and this uses computer tomography, which is like the CAT scans that are used in hospitals today. Realistically, it could be years, however, before these sophisticated devices could be in use. The machines are available for purchase, but they're too expensive and too slow. The FAA says that installing this kind of system in 75 of the busiest U.S. airports could cost up to $2.2 billion, which, you know, it's a lot of money when you're,
Yes, it does.
Additionally, the maintenance alone in these machines runs about $1 billion annually. The machines can check up to 260 bags an hour. That equals about 4 bags a minute. But the airlines say that's still too slow. 4 bags a minute seems to be a little bit too slow for, for checking.
Yes.
Yeah. Currently, the system is being implemented at the San Francisco airport, and the airline that's using it is saying that it's checking only about 100 bags per hour. And there have been complaints of false readings. So for that reason, scanners should be supplemented, or even if you don't have the scanner, you should be supplemented by double checks of luggage and passengers by airline personnel.
Basically, if in doubt, get the person's permission and then just physically check their items.
Did you know that authorities in Israel and West Germany and Switzerland, they double check the bags, they use dogs to sniff the luggage, and they search the passengers by hand as well?
Yes. Here in Israel, they have to check in 4 hours.
4 hours. El Al, which is the national carrier of Israel.
And I was in Rome a couple years ago, and they do check your passport. I had to go through security 4 times in Rome.
4 times?
Yes.
You see, so it's an inconvenience that I think is welcomed.
Yeah.
We have another home viewer. Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Go ahead.
I got a question. If you were president with a gun...
Oh, I think we lost him. Did we lose him?
Yes.
Okay. Airport security, I think... wait, before I go to that, the Israelis, going back to El Al, will question their passengers often twice to try to catch them in a lie. So the 4 hours is not unusual over there,
Yes.
and people are willing to do this. Airport security should also extend to transit lounges, the waiting areas for passengers. Now, you said that you have some security guards that are roaming.
Yes.
And
a lot of people think these are drastic changes here in the United States, but you go to some countries like Thailand, for example, they have an armed guard standing right there.
Oh, I know that.
And a lot of the other countries, they do have armed guards. So.
Oh, yes. I know that where I've traveled, they also had, you can see them, you're right on the tower.
Right.
I mean, they're just patrolling back and forth with their machine guns.
Yes.
And you can go through the security check, and believe it or not, I beeped when I went through security.
Really?
And I had no idea what beeped, but immediately I was surrounded by 4 guards. And it was...
You get a kind of harrowing experience.
Oh my gosh, it was terrible. It was scary. But I was a lot younger then, but now if this would happen now, I don't think I'd be too scared. I'd be rather satisfied. Well, Jonathan, I think we're just about out of time. I certainly hope that the information that we brought to you today has been helpful. And if you have further concerns or questions about check-in procedures, be sure to contact your Ask Your Travel consultant. And if you happen to need this information after your agency's office hours, call the carrier on which you'll be traveling, and their reservationist can certainly help you. And
also, one of our friendly agents out at the airport.
Oh, absolutely,
help people also.
I mean, you're not going to have too much of a problem at Reading. We're a smaller airport. Feel safe being there. We're level 3 security. We have good people there. If you have questions, get there a little early. You can ask Jonathan or Rose or Leslie or anyone that's out there.
Yes.
They'll be happy to give you the information that you need. As always, I thank you for tuning in this morning. I thank the home viewer for giving us a call. And Jonathan, thanks for being my guest today.
Thanks for having me again, Lucy.
Okay. And again, I'd like to invite all of you back the first Thursday of next month.